Hi guys, my name's Tom. Welcome to the channel where we talk a lot, mostly about watercolour. In this particular video, we're going to be talking predominantly about using white as a watercolourist, but also I'm going to touch on using some other opaque colours too. So the kind of traditional school of watercolour almost kind of frowns upon using white, or certainly doesn't use white as a general rule. And that's fine. But also I think it can stop a lot of people from using white when actually it could really benefit their watercolour paintings. So I take the opinion of if using a little bit of opaque white to pop in a few little mist highlights or add a little bit of extra zing in places is the difference between a painting that works and doesn't, then why not use it? And if it's the difference between a painting looking good versus really having something special about it, then again, why not just use a little bit of opaque white? There's nothing wrong with it at all. I personally use actually a white gouache because I find it has a little bit more creaminess and a little bit more opacity, but you also have watercolor titanium white and Chinese white. One thing that I don't do with watercolors is I don't use white in my mixes. Generally, I stay away from doing that because it turns the mixes kind of cloudy, makes them go very opaque, as a lot of colours do. So I generally only use pure white, sometimes mixed with a little bit of colour at the very end of a painting to pop on extra little pops of light and little details here and there. And it's that sort of approach that I want to show you in the little demo we're going to dive into in a moment. And then right at the end, I also want to go back to the tractor from the previous video, which I didn't actually talk about the painting itself. But I want to talk about the use of other opaque colours, in particular lavender by Holbein, turquoise also by Holbein, turquoise blue, and then using other colours like my reds. My warm reds are generally a bit more opaque. So I want to talk about using those thick at the end of a painting. So I'll talk a lot more about opaque colours in a different video, but on the whole, watercolour is a lovely transparent medium and it glows loads. When we start putting too many opaque colours in our mixes, it can kill that transparency, and it can certainly stop our darks from going nice and rich and deep, make our colours go a little bit chalky. So we need to be wary of opaque colours, but they very much still have a place. They can give really intense kind of bursts and shots of colour that the transparent colours can't always give us. So it's not that we need to keep them off the palette completely, we just need to be wary of them. I'll talk more about these specific colours and how I use them in the tractor demo at the end of this one. I also want to mention the lavender colour that I use by Holbein. I also use in a slightly watered down way in this first demo of the boat, so that's an opportunity to talk there. I've gone on enough there, let's dive into it. Okay guys, so we just kick this off like any normal inverted commas watercolour. We're using a lot of transparent colour, a warm blue and a cool blue here just to lay down the foundations of the painting. It's all very transparent pigment and also a lot of water, so it keeps it light. And I'm just laying down the basic colours in the background, and then I was trying to do a little bit of dry brushwork or drier brushwork, and using the brush in a very swift way, skimming it over the page to get some of the sparkle of the light on the water, and I succeeded to a point, but I could already tell at this point that I hadn't quite got enough of the sparkle that I wanted, and kind of knew that I'd be coming in with a little bit of opaque white on the water at least. If you notice, the boats have been left almost entirely white for now, and that means I can bring the dark of the background down to meet the boats and trap the light on the top of the boats using that lovely band of darker foliage. And this is exactly what I'm doing now. I want to let some of the lighter colour of the foliage show through underneath, and then a little bit more accuracy as I just hit the top of the boats. A lot of people might use masking fluid, and I don't think there's anything wrong with masking fluid. I've tried it a bit and it doesn't really work for me. I prefer to kind of let the lights kind of find themselves as I paint. But if you know exactly where you want your lights to be, masking fluid can work really well. And it could have been massively effective in the sparkling water and the highlights on the boats. But I don't really work like that personally at the moment. I actually prefer coming in with a little bit of opaque white, as you're going to see in a bit. So at this point, I'm just kind of going in and really using the negative shape of the background to carve out the positive light shape of the light hitting the tops of the boats before I go any further. So I wanted to set the scene, and now I'm coming in to the subjects that sit within the scene. So we're working from big to small, which can be a useful way to work. I lay down the base tone of the boat. Some of them have very dark colours on the hull and others are white in shadow. This is a much darker boat. And I just look for the basic transition. I'm just working in shadow, so I drop in a lighter shadow and then a more a deeper shadow. Ultramarine transparent is a great colour to use for white in shadow, even just straight as it is, with the right amount of water to get the right tone. Notice that I leave lots of whites hitting the top of the boat still, even as I paint the shadow on the top of the boat. And this is where we get into this idea of painting shapes and tones rather than things. Yes, I'm painting a boat, but what's the shape of the shadow and what's the shape of the light? And how simple can I make it? So this boat in the background that I'm doing at the moment is white, but it's mostly in shadow. And again, I focus on the overall shape of the shadow, leaving some little whites. Now, for the first time, I'm coming into a true opaque colour and using it neat or almost neat. And this is Lavender by Holbein. It represents to me what I would call like a low light, which is a lighter colour, but in the shadows. So it's nowhere near as bright as a highlight. And opaque lavender in this case, just kind of zipping it on, really lifts an area. It's also working beautifully for the masts, and it's creating counter change. That being that the lavender, because it's a kind of mid-tone, is perfect to be a lighter tone, but not too bright against a dark band of foliage. But the mast, as it goes into the sky, it becomes dark against light. So the mast with the lavender is light against dark at the bottom, dark against light at the top. Counter change. Now I'm setting the painting up for the finish. I'm coming in with what I would call dark accents, little sharp touches and details here and there. Adding in more darker masts, keeping it very kind of loose with the brush strokes, drier brushwork. Coming now back in with the opaque lavender, fairly thick, almost straight out of the tube. And just little hits of, they're not highlights, they're just slightly lighter tones. They give it a little bit more life, a little bit more pop. I'm setting up for the highlights. I use the opaque lavender neat out of the tube, as I'm doing here, but I also use it very watered down, more like I use the ultramarine to cast little shadows into white areas. I could have done it with the ultramarine, but lavender works really beautifully watered down. As always, with opaque colours, we need to remember if we're going to glaze over the top of an opaque colour, that's when we're going to run into trouble. I generally reserve my opaque colours for much later in the painting, when I'm using them like this, because I know where to put them. And here I'm glazing the lavender over some white, just to cast that white in shadow a little bit more, give it a bit more form. And now the painting, like the scene is set, the painting pretty much works as it is, but I know we could push the feeling of light a little bit more, and that's when we come to our opaque white now. So using it thick straight out of the tube. Notice I'm doing quick little hits. I'm not working it into the paint. It's not going into any of my mixtures. It's just little strikes, little slices, little shots, all of this sort of language to describe the way that we're using the brush and the paint. Little hits here and there, little slices, little pops of light. Very easy to go overboard, and you know, if I'm totally honest and I was to do this again, I may go a little less information with the main mast in the middle, a bit too much there, and probably hold back on the lights a little bit. But now where I really wanted the lights, using it really thick, no water in the brush, because I want the lights to have thickness so it reflects more light and it looks really bright. So thick creamy paint, hits of the brush, little pops here and there, trying to keep every mark slightly different so they don't all look the same. And there's quite a lot of opaque white in this one. It doesn't dominate the painting, but because of the nature of the subject, I felt like I wanted all of these little pops of light everywhere, all of these little hits of light, almost like it's sparkling. Now, if we did that sparkle everywhere, obviously it would look a bit too much. So it's this idea of, with the opaque white, less is more. Go very carefully with it. Don't overuse it. make sure you retain in your mind what it is that you are using the opaque white for, and that will kind of keep you on track. I knew here I wanted to create lots of lovely little sparkles of light on the water and on the boats. Once I had achieved that, I quickly stopped doing it because it's easy to go too far. So next, let's have a look at the tractor and just how we're using not just opaque colour, but also normal colours, thick, straight out of the tube, like I have done with the white here, and what that can do for a painting. Just like the last painting, I don't use the paint too thick or dark to start with. There is some of the pyrrole red, which is an opaque colour, actually dropped in at this stage, but because there's so much water on the page, it's keeping it very light, and it creates a transparent wash, even though it's a more opaque colour. So what I want to be wary of at this stage is going too heavy with an opaque colour like pyrrole red. But all of this is just like the other painting. We're just laying in the foundations of the light wash, the lighter tones. We'll let that dry, come back in with the shadows, letting all those colours kind of flow together, playing with the trans. You will have seen also that I did drop in some of that opaque lavender. Lovely opaque colour like lavender dropped into a transparent wash can do some interesting things. So it's using opaque colours but knowing their limitations. So here, for example, I'm using a very heavy pigment called turquoise blue by Holbein, just slicing this into a drying transparent wash. I know I'm not going to glaze over this, so I don't mind doing so. It's just an injection of intense colour, which can be really fun and just keep an area a bit more interesting. Once we've let that dry off, I then come in and do what I would usually do and start to glaze in the more gentle shadow, slowly building in to the deeper shadows, and just take that kind of fun, loose approach to the shadows into the rest of the painting. So another thing I like to do with opaque colour, particularly the lavender, or in this case the turquoise, is splash and splatter it into a drying dark wash, and it creates some really beautiful effects. The kind of effects you get depend on the timing and the wateriness of the pigment that you're splashing in there, but another really great use for opaque colour. Behaves very differently from splashing a transparent colour into the same area. So next I use a very opaque red, which is pyrrole red. It's like a very opaque colour. And with that I use it completely thick and neat out of the tube. And I'm just using it in very kind of direct, thick way, striking that thick colour on top of dry washes. And what it does is it just creates a bit more liveliness. It's a really great way to use watercolour. Don't be afraid to use even your transparent colours thick out of the tube over the top. If you do it over the top of a damp wash, you'll get some interesting effects. If you do it over the top of a dry wash, you'll get a sharper, more direct mark. I'm doing the same thing here with my lavender. Notice the brush strokes are brief and quick, and they're thought out. It's not overused. I'm certainly not working it into the paint. That's when we're going to get cloudy muddiness. What I love is that contrast of a drier brush stroke that kind of breaks over the texture of the page over the top of our more flowing transparent washes. For me, that contrast of texture is a really great thing. And this opaque paint, particularly this red and this lavender, when used over the top of a darker colour, can really inject a bit of life and a bit of energy and a bit of movement into an area that might otherwise feel a little bit dead, or like it just needs a little something extra to it. Again, another example of using, it's a semi-opaque red, but using it very thick and neat, slicing it into an area. Now this back wheel here, or the front wheel, but the back one, is for me a good example of using more opaque colours and using them very neat to take an area that is perfectly fine, but I just felt it needed a little bit more going on. A little bit more excitement, a little bit more movement, and I knew that my opaque colour would be a really fun way to do this. So using it nice and thick, using it with a light touch, a brush stroke, leave it alone. don't fiddle with that opaque paint too much, if at all. So mark making, striking on a bit of opaque turquoise now. For me, it just lifts this area, gives it a bit more movement, emphasizes the shape of the wheel a little bit more, and creates a little bit more interest. And I can go back to my darks as well, making sure though that I don't accidentally mix my opaque colors into my darks on the palette. I want to keep those separate. And then right at the end of the painting is when I come to my opaque white, used very sparingly. Little highlights in places just to make them pop. It's amazing what a difference it can make. It doesn't necessarily need it. It's a perfectly fine painting as it is, but I always feel, well, don't always feel, but in some cases, especially a subject like this that has a certain complexity to it and certain feeling of light, just a few little pops of this opaque white, neat, straight out of the tube, hits, brush marks, little touches, whatever language you want to use, can really lift the painting. And I think for me, the word I use is make it pop. Can really make the painting pop. And if it's the difference, as I said at the beginning, between a painting that's perfectly fine versus a painting that really does have that little something extra about it, then I'm very happy to use opaque white. And hopefully I've kind of shown you here how and why it can be used in an interesting way. And certainly less is more. I don't do this in every single painting. There are plenty of paintings where I don't use any white at all and where I don't use any opaque colours at all. Partly I go through phases where I like doing it more and other times when I like doing it less. And also the subject itself dictates it. And other times I get to the end of a painting where I've used no opaque colour or no thick colour and I'm really happy with it exactly as it is. So it's always being sensitive to your subject and sensitive to what you're trying to achieve. And then beyond that, being sensitive to the pros and the cons of using your opaque and thicker paint in this way. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful. I hope it gave you some insight into the kind of the pros and cons of using white, but also what a fantastic tool it can be. It can be something to fall back on a little bit. You need to be very sparing with it. Don't go too mad with it. I certainly don't like using it in my mixes. You can do that, but again, you have to be careful with what you're trying to achieve. It's all about getting to know your medium and using your medium as a tool to achieve what it is you want to achieve with your painting, rather than setting yourself these kind of limitations and these rules that actually might hold back your creativity. There's not really much point in doing that. But at the same time, we need to know there are limitations and pitfalls of using these different materials and using them in a certain way. And then very finally, using kind of the coloured opaque colours or using colour thick can also be a really interesting added texture and dimension to watercolour painting that, particularly for me, coming from an oil painting and an acrylic background where I'm used to texture and thick paint, I sometimes feel myself itching for just that little bit more thickness and a bit more texture. And that dry brush work with opaque colours in particular really kind of satisfies that itch. So that's it, guys. If you like this video and you want to see lots more, please do consider subscribing. Plenty more of this, plus the plein air stuff and loads of other tutorials to come. And don't forget, you can find all the information about the Watercolour School, the Watercolour Masterclass, Zoom demonstrations, all of that other stuff is linked in the description below. Until next time, happy living, happy painting, and I shall catch you soon.